Minutes of Torah. This year is entitled Spirituality 101, Part 2. The first year we mentioned that spirituality can and should be used to fuel our actions, but can never be used to dictate our actions. We cannot go ahead and, based on our feelings, decide what's right and what's wrong, even if they are spiritual feelings. That is not how we dictate our actions. Actions always must be dictated with a chachma bin and das, with the halachic process. And then once we have the right actions defined, then we can be very spiritual and enthusiastic. So we have to decide. Person wakes up late. This is the Zman. It's at 11 o'clock. You have to analyze. Can I do this? Can I say this brachas? Can I say brachas Torah, brachas Hashachar, brachas Shema, Shemona Esrei? Once he decides what he's allowed to do given the situation, based on his own learning, based on his posik, or the Shulchan Aruch, whatever it may be, then he should daven with enthusiasm, with love, with an excitement and passion. Actions defined first by Chachma bin Adat, and then spirituality kicks in. So I'd like to add another point. Spirituality cannot define our actions, and also spirituality cannot define or predict God's actions. What God is going to do, sometimes we have a feeling, I know what God's going to do. And it has nothing to do with MS. In the Parashat Shmini, in the Mishkan is coming. We finally are building the Mishkan. The 8th day it was built and taken apart. And now it's here to stay. And now we're going to have the Shekhinah resting in the Mishkan. Miracles are going to be open and clear. It should be the most magnificent parsha in the whole Torah. Everything should just work out perfectly. And you ask anyone in the midbar, what's going to be? What do you mean what's going to be? We're going to have miracles. Hashem's going to eat up with the fire, so to speak. He's going to take the fire miraculously, eat up the korban. It's going to be the most magical time in Klal Yisrael ever. All of creation was to bring Yisrael to this point, and then we're going to take the Mishkan and Bnei Yisrael, bring them into Eretz Yisrael. That's the height. And yet, what do we find in Shmini? Spirituality would have predicted everything just goes smooth. It gets to the Mishkan, no Shekhinah, no miraculous fire. Moshe says, Aaron says to Moshe, what's going on? I thought originally I told you I don't think I should be doing this because I did the Egel. And you pushed me to do it. It's not happening. Moshe says, you're right, let's go daven together. Bnei Yisrael say what's going on. Not exactly the dream that we would have expected or felt is going to, how are things going to emerge. The Navi is in a complete disaster. Not exactly a spiritual dream what happened to them, the opposite. And then to add salt on the wound, we have Moshe criticizing Aaron about his practice as an Onaim. Pasha Shmini, if you ask anyone how Pasha Shmini is going to be written, they're going to have the most beautiful description, and yet nothing to do with that. We sometimes feel things intuitively, spiritually, that have nothing to do with the MS. So just like spirituality cannot define our actions, spirituality cannot define God's actions. And if you're 70, 80 years ago, you're living in Europe, and people are warning, it looks like we're going to have some dark clouds up ahead. Hitler, he's emerging in the 1930s. I think this whole place could be doomed. So it says, no, what do you mean? Hashem's never going to stop the learning here in Europe. In Vilna and Covenant, Lithuania, it's no way. I just know it's going to continue. Spirituality cannot dictate God's actions. A person has a right to be living in 1930, use his mind, and analyze to the best of his abilities, and talk with rabbis, go for advice. Do you think the predictions could really be true politically? Is there enough of a balance of powers here in the government? Could it be that we're really going to be destroyed? Analyze it, that's fine, and you may or may not come with the right answer. But you just have an inner feeling, I just know God won't do this. No, you don't. Over a decade ago, we just feel God won't let Gush Katif happen. It won't happen. There's too much blood, sweat, and tears that these people put in. These people are the salt of the earth. They've built up this area. And it was Sharon who built it up with them. God's going to now let Sharon destroy it. No, God won't do it. I just know it. No, you don't. No, you don't. Your spiritual feelings cannot dictate what God will do. We don't know what God will do. The only thing we can know about what God will do is, once again, with our Chachma, Bina, and with our knowledge, we can investigate the Torah, and wherever the Torah predicted God's actions, then we can rely on that. God said in the Torah there's going to be a Messianic era. We know there'll be a Messianic era. How, when, what, the details. If it's not open in the Masorah, we don't know it. We can't feel it. We could guess it, but don't think, I just know it. I know this is the Mashiach. Unless we have clear indication from the Masorah. Outside of that, those inner spiritual feelings cannot dictate God's actions. It's crucial. So to summarize our two shirim on spirituality, our inner spirit cannot dictate man's actions, and our inner spirit cannot dictate God's actions. Those are dictated from other sources. Of course, spirituality is not to be neglected. It is to be used and harnessed to fuel the right actions. And then, Mitzvah Hashem, once we have clarity on what spirituality should not be used for, then we can harness it to be used for the perfect and precise means. Shalom.